Hey book lovers, and welcome back to the library. If you're new here, my name is Desiree, and I love diving into books that challenge perspectives, spark conversations, and highlight marginalized voices. The time has come again for us to talk about all the books that I read in May. I read 4 and I loved every single one of them. I also want to talk about the things that I have in rotation, as well as some other media that I watched in May, as well as some life updates. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around, grab your tea. I got my Bengal spice, grab your blanket. I got my favorite blanket, my book blanket, and let's get into it. So in May, I read the first 2 books in the Skullomance series by Naomi Novik. Naomi Novik. The first one is called A Deadly Education, and the second one is The Last Graduate. I'm currently reading The Golden Enclaves, and I started off reading that book physically, but I had to switch to audio and physical, but I'm almost done, and boy, is it crazy. But anyway, the Skullomance series, the Skullomance trilogy, is about Elle and friends who go to a magic school for wizards and have to learn the ways of wizardry, essentially. And the school's motto is something to the effect of, "In wisdom there is shelter." And the irony of the Skullomance is that it's kind of hard to find wisdom when everywhere you turn in the school, you are essentially at risk of being attacked by what's called Maleficari, which is like a bunch of like evil monster creature things. And secondly, the school exists outside of our reality in like the void. So these kids are separated from anything and everything that they know on the outside world for 4 years. Again, the school's purpose is to provide shelter and protect them, but that's not necessarily the case. Okay, so in the first of the series, we follow Elle and friends. They're in their junior year of high school, and they essentially are prepping for graduation, which is next year. And graduation is essentially a battle royale, where they have to fight all of the Malakari that essentially got into the school, that kind of all hoarded into the graduation hall, because there are like protections and barriers and stuff like that, but not all of the Malakari are deterred by them. Some get in, some don't. Most of them get in and stay in the graduation hall and wait for the graduates to come down, and the graduates have to fight their way out of the school back to the real world. And so their entire 4-year academic career is learning skills and alchemy and spells for survival. And what's cool about the school is that it's designed in like a corkscrew, so like a corkscrew machine. So the first year that they come to the school, they're like teleported into the school onto the first floor, and that's the floor that's the floor that they stay on, or essentially like the dorm rooms that they stay on throughout their entire 4 years. So after their freshman year is done, the school kind of winds its way down, and then the freshmen are now sophomores, so they're on the second year. The freshmen now come in and they're on the top floor until their senior year, when they corkscrew all the way down to the bottom, which connects them to the graduation hall, which then they have to battle their way out of. And how the magic system works is the wizards use mana to use their magic and create spells, do alchemy, make artifices, all that stuff. And how they build mana is by doing something that's difficult or taxing. So for example, Elle hates working out, so she'll sit there and do like 500 sit-ups to build mana. But the catch is, if she gets too good at it and she starts getting buff, she has to switch to something else like crocheting. So building mana is not easy, and mana also has to be, if you're sharing it between people, it has to be freely given. If it's not freely given and it's just taken from a life source, that is considered Malia. And wizards who use too much Malia turn into maleficers. So think of like a warlock. The reason why I'm telling all this is because I want to give you guys, if you're interested in reading this book, the basic mechanics, because it can get a little confusing when you're reading the book 1 and book 2. So just starting off with some basics and understanding how the world works might be helpful if you're interested. I will say, after reading book 1 and book 2 and 90% of the way through book 3, I will say that Naomi Novik does a really good job of world building through exposition, like a good balance of world building through exposition and action/examples, so that you understand the mechanics of the world as events unfold. Oh, another thing. Okay, so there are these things called enclaves outside the world, or outside of the school, sorry. And enclaves essentially are just like really big groups of wizards, or like compounds, where they all build mana, store it into like a pool, and everyone kind of, it's like a shared pool that the wizards pull from, but also feed into. So there are major enclaves and there's also minor enclaves. And in addition to surviving the school, the kids are trying to get into an enclave. Desirable enclave would be a major enclave, but honestly any enclave, because the reason I forgot to mention, the reason why they have this school is to protect the kids, but protecting the kids is important because the less you know about your magic, the more susceptible you are, or the less you know how to control your magic, the more susceptible you are to Maleficari killing you in the real world. Or not the real world, but killing you out of the Scholomance. So the idea of enclaves is not only to build mana, share mana, but also to protect yourselves, right? Strength in numbers. And so because of that, these kids are not only trying to survive, but they're also trying to network so they can get into these enclaves. So you can imagine the desperation that comes from having to survive while also trying to get into a major enclave to keep yourself safe when you exit the school. And they're not only doing these things for themselves, most of them are doing them for their family, because if you get in on an enclave, that creates a better opportunity for your family down the line to potentially get into it, or at least get in good with someone in the enclaves. If you haven't picked up already, there's a lot of parallels when it comes to the education system in the Scholomance and also the education system specifically in America, because that's where I can speak from experience. But yeah, the first book was really good. I think I mentioned this in my April reading recap, but the writing was a little hard to get into a little bit because we are in Elle's perspective and we are basically following her stream of consciousness, or just her thoughts, and seeing the world through her eyes and experiencing her character growth through her experience and her auditorily processing things. Or I guess not really auditory because it's all in her head, but we're reading it, so it's kind of like we're seeing the shift in her view of the world, how she sees herself. Elle really goes through it in the first 2 books. And in The Last Graduate, this is their senior year. They are in their senior year. They are studying hard, trying to get out safely. I won't talk too many details about the second book, because I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but I guess the mechanics of the book, like the writing, there were times where it lagged a little bit, and so it was hard to get through those parts, especially toward the middle. However, the payoff was worth it. The climax, I was so proud of those kids. I just have to say I'm so proud of those kids. Yeah, I'm so proud of those kids because the school starts to do some funky things. And that's saying a lot because the school is already funky to begin with, but the school starts to do some funky things, basically shifting the course of action for everyone, leading them to learn some valuable lessons, and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, in book 1, we are following Elle. She is a loner kid. She's very pessimistic about the world. Her outlook on life is pretty grim. Understandably, though, when you read the book, you'll understand. But she does make some friends along the way. And in book 2, we see these relationships foster and some new ones forming. And so far between book 1 and 2, we do see Elle's outlook on life shift, albeit reluctantly for her. But I do enjoy being in her mind, honestly. It's a little chaotic in there, but it is rewarding to see the journey that she goes on and the revelation she has. Like I was saying, I am 90% of the way through the 3rd one, and I had to switch to audiobook at some point. I would recommend reading this book via audio, for one, because the narrator is pretty good, but also because, like I was saying, it's like following someone's thought process. So hearing it in someone else's voice might help with interpreting it and comprehending what's going on. That's just my suggestion. As I read the first 2 books and now I'm on the 3rd book, the Scholomance series is definitely a commentary on capitalism, educational institutions, classism, and individualism versus collectivism. Book 1 is an illustration on individualism and the effect it has on the kids in the Scholomance. And book 2 introduces the concept of collectivism after these kids have been conditioned to function within an individualistic mindset or framework. And I say this because individualism really focuses on the individual, prioritizing autonomy, self-reliance, and like the needs of that individual, whereas collectivism prioritizes the needs of the community before the individual. And we definitely see the dichotomy of those 2 frameworks between the first and the 2nd book. That's the biggest theme or concept that stuck out to me between the 2 books. And again, Naomi Novik deserves her flowers because of the way that she builds out her world between all 3 books. Because book 3, full of eureka moments, full of reveals, full of realizations, and heartbreak. So that's the Skullman series. Let me stop talking about it because I can go on forever. But the next book that I read is Where the River Not Where the River, What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This is a historical fantasy adventure romance set in 1884 Cairo, Egypt. It follows Inez Olivera as she travels from Argentina all the way to Egypt to seek answers about her parents' death. Now, if you're a fan of The Mummy or Indiana Jones, this book right here, that'll scratch that itch. It's an archaeological adventure book and it's magic. Okay, there's magical artifacts involved. We have conspiracies. We have rival archaeologists. We got romance. Okay. We got colonialism. And we also have preservation of history within this book. And it's also a duology. I read both because after that cliffhanger, I was not going to wait a second longer to pick up the book and find out what happened. I like any adventure book, adventure movie. We do have some twists. We got some turns. We got some betrayals. And like I said, that cliffhanger, Isabel, count your days. Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to say I am sorry to anyone that actually had to wait. What was it, like a year or two for book 2 to come out? Because that, again, that cliffhanger. Oh, yeah. I think what I enjoyed best about this book is the adventure. The Mummy is one of my favorite movies, which honestly, I kind of want to go watch it after this. But yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I just love like treasure hunting and our main characters are in danger and they gotta get out. And then there's like the bad guys that you end up having to like work with a little bit, but you can't trust all the way because you guys both have like the same desire to unearth these treasures. And like you guys get put in a moment where you kind of, like I said, have to work together. But like you're both like, I don't trust you, but I kind of need you right now. But once I get what I got, it's over. I do have a bone to pick with our main character Inez though, okay? She's 19 in this book. I think 19 or turning 19. But her character is very naive, very trusting, albeit to her defense because she has been sheltered pretty much her entire life. Like her parents left when she was a baby to go adventuring and be archaeologists in Egypt. And they came home every so often, but then those visits became less and less. And like I said, she grew up sheltered and was forced to be raised like a lady. And yeah, so because of her sheltered upbringing, it does make it a little easy for people to, or I wouldn't say easy for people to, but like she wants to trust people with all her heart, right? She's a very trusting, she's a very loving person, and unfortunately, there are several characters in this book that take advantage of that. However, she is headstrong and she refuses to give up the fight to find out what happens to her parents, and that is one of her shining features. Now, the second book is called Where the Library Hides, and this picks up literally right after the cliffhanger that we were left on in book 1. So I'm not going to talk much about the plot of the second one. All I have to say is that the adventure continues and there is more rival archaeologists, there's more betrayal, there is more twists, turns. There is one reveal that I did not see coming. I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, Isabel, I give you your flowers because I was not. I was like, wait a minute. Because I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to give anything away. But in the back of my head, I was like, this can't be all, right? This can't be the end of this one thing, right? There's got to be more. Because when you're reading these adventure stories, right, if there's not definitive proof that something happened, then there's always a possibility that something different can be afoot. Wow, it's really hard to talk about this book without spoiling anything. Anyway, I think it was a good book. It was a fun book. It wasn't perfect. I will say, like I said, there are some things that kind of not rub me the wrong way, but I just thought like Inez girl. Inez. I thought we learned this lesson before. I thought we learned in book 1. So things like that where there's very little character development from book 1 to book 2. Those are all the books that I read in May, and like I said, I really enjoyed all 4 of them. They had their pros, they had their cons, I feel like, as all books do. But all in all, I would probably reread all 4 of these. Now, the books that I have in rotation, like I mentioned before, I am reading the Golden Enclaves, which is the 3rd book in the Skullman series. And when I tell you, shit gets crazy. Okay. I think book 3, though, struggles with the same things as book 2. is that it kind of gets slowed. It slows its pace a little bit. It kind of gets bogged down with a lot of exposition, or not really exposition, but analyzation by Elle's character of certain events or, situations or things that people are saying or things that she's feeling. So I will say that is one thing that I think is a disadvantage for the series as a whole, is the fact that we do get bogged down at moments by the over analyzing. Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate about what I just said, but to Elle's defense, she does tend to overanalyze things. So I guess it's within her nature and for us as readers to experience that overanalyzation. I don't know. I'm just overanalyzing. Next on the docket, we have Black Cherokee by Antonio Michael Davidson. That is not his name. It is Antonio Michael Downing, who I had the pleasure of seeing speak at the Festival of Literary Diversity in Toronto back in, beginning of May, on a bookish retreat where I got to meet some of my bookish friends in real life, like in person for the first time. That was really fun. I am working on a vlog, don't worry, you could see all the fun things we did. Anyway, back to Black Cherokee. So I did have the pleasure of speaking with this person, or not speaking with, I meant to say hearing speak, but I did speak with him a little bit because I bought his book there and he signed it. I told him I was from America and he was like, Desi, there's no borders between us. And every time I read that, I just get like a breath of fresh air and just like, I don't know, it just makes me feel connected and reminds me that borders are just something that someone made up to control movement and people and Anyway, yes, I had the pleasure of listening to him speak, and he spoke about his book, and I forgot the name of the panel that he was on, but it was 3 other authors as well. The Politics of Power. Is it Politics of Power? The Power of Politics? Something. But they were just talking about how writing and reading is political, for one, but also the power that comes from writing stories like these and the power that we have telling our stories, sharing our stories, exploring different stories. I did get another book by another author that was speaking there, and hers is Good Guys, which I might start next. As someone who has worked in nonprofits since graduating high school, or since graduating college, it basically begs the question, like, who are the good guys? What is a good guy? Can you really discern someone's true intentions of things? I've gone way off track, but let's talk about what Black Cherokee is about. So Black Cherokee follows Ophelia. Ophelia is a descendant of Cherokee freedmen, who are Black formerly enslaved people who were enslaved by rich Cherokees. Now I'm gonna put a pin in that part, because when I read that synopsis and when I started reading this book, I didn't realize that indigenous tribes had Black slaves. They also had slaves from other tribes, but specifically Black slaves. And I had to pause the book and do a little research because, again, I did not know this at all, but that is like the huge part of this book. And I will say, my initial thought when I heard that was, I wonder if this was influenced by colonialism and colonization. And as I was doing research, yes, it was very heavily, at least with enslaved Black people. So the enslavement of Black people and the treatment of them was influenced by colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. Like I said, I just did a surface level research so I could understand the point in time that this book takes place in. But from documents and reports, the way that enslaved Black people were treated was nothing like how white slave owners treated Black slaves or enslaved Black people. However, that doesn't take from the fact that they were enslaved, and some were treated very inhumanely. But yeah, that's just a little context on Black Cherokee, the time that it takes place in, or the history surrounding this story. So if you're interested, I would highly recommend doing a little research. I'll link the article that I read if you want to start there. Now knowing that little tidbit, I want to read to you the synopsis of Black Cherokees. So, Ophelia is a descendant of Cherokee freedmen who are blacks formerly enslaved by rich Southern Cherokees. She doesn't understand why being black makes her different, and she also struggles to understand what being Cherokee means. And she's also struggling with the torrent of history within her, around her, within her tribe, which is also no longer a reservation because, unfortunately, they sold their land to white people. And so within the Etsy tribe, some black community members are accepted while others are not accepted. And there is a lot of racism that the black community members experience. So as Ophelia is dealing with all this, okay, the town and the river that sustains it is put in danger. There are personal rivalries that threaten the community's survival. Again, with the backdrop of all of this going on, Ophelia is constantly in an identity struggle with herself, being told what she is, what she isn't. She's on this journey to search for a place where she belongs and family that accepts her and loves her for who she is. And so she has to ask herself, what does it mean to belong when that belonging comes at such a high price? Man, what a question. So I feel like anyone who is of any mixed race, you have such, different cultures, and so you're trying to struggle. I'm not trying to struggle. You're trying to figure out, like, who am I? Where do I belong? I remember a family member sharing that she felt like she was too white for the black kids and too black for the white kids, so she never felt like she belonged anywhere. And again, it's, someone's telling you who you are, someone's telling you who you aren't. And in Ophelia's case, she's experiencing really intense racism. I'm only on chapter 14, and I just want to reach in and give Ophelia a hug. And also, another thing that my mind went to when reading this book is how anti-blackness is at the root of colonialism and how it penetrates almost every culture, and it shows up in different ways. For example, I think it was when Ukrainians were evacuating, there were black refugees, and they were being pushed and not allowed on these transports before, non-black refugees. Like, stuff like that, where even in crisis, we are the bottom of the rung of the ladder. Didn't mean to get a little down there, but yeah, this book it's good so far, and I can't wait to finish it. Okay, so those are the books that I read and the books that are in rotation, and now I want to talk to you about some other media that I've been getting into. First and foremost, I am obsessed with Baldur's Gate 3. I started playing this bad boy about a week ago. I got 32 hours in already. I freaking love it. In addition to watching The Mummy, I may also play Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know. I got options. But I've been interested in D&D for a minute, but I honestly, it's really intimidating. It's a lot. It feels like a lot, and it's scary, okay? But from what I've heard, Baldur's Gate 3 is like a nice intro to the world of D&D. I'm hoping that's true. I'm loving Baldur's Gate 3 so far. It's my first time playing a turn-based game, or a turn-based combat game, so that was new for me. I was like, wait, I don't just smash X. Like, wait, I actually have to think about my next move and be strategic. Okay, got it. But I think that's why I love this game so much, because I have to think about my next move, and I have to be strategic and think about, be strategic with leveling up my character, and yeah, just, I don't know, just things like that. I don't know. Loving it. Can't wait to play more. And what else am I doing? Speaking of, on the same tip of being Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D, I also watched The Mighty Nine, and I'm currently on season 2 of The Legend of Vox Machina, which are both based on campaigns that were live streamed by Critical Role. I think it's like a group of voice actors who decided, hey, let's play D&D together. And so they did, and they have like several campaigns that are live streamed on YouTube. And there are two, to my knowledge, 2 animated series based off of 2 of the campaigns that they did. Vox Machina is the first that I'm aware of. It's on season 4 or 5 now. There are new episodes coming out. And then The Mighty Nine is a recent one. I love The Mighty Nine. I finished it and I wanted to rewatch it. I was like, I need more. I need more. I need to figure out what's happening with these characters. It's dark, it's gritty, you got magic, you got assassins, you got all of fantasy nerdy things that a girl could want. And also, the characters in the animated series are the voice actors. Some of them are the voice actors that are in the like live streamed D&D campaign. So cool. I fell down a rabbit hole. This is my current obsession. Okay, moving on. Okay, next thing I did that I want to talk about is seeing Backrooms. Amazing slow burn horror movie produced by A24. Now, if you don't know the Backrooms lore, at its core, it was a picture of like an old office space that just gave very like liminal, creepy vibes. It was posted on some sort of forum. Someone commented under it, creating like a whole like backstory for it, and it just exploded from there. Now, the Backrooms movie is based off of the Backrooms YouTube series created by King Pixels, based off of that Backrooms post. And the Backrooms YouTube series explores the Backrooms, and it's like found footage, analog, really creepy, like I was saying, liminal space horror series. And the thing about the YouTube series is that you're always left with more questions than answers, okay? Every time he would drop a new video, we would get a little bit more hints about the Backrooms, the lore behind it. There is one thing that is like a constant in the Backrooms. It's like this monster creature that I'm just thinking about it, I'm getting chills. Because you never see the monster. You just hear it when it's running after you. Mind you, you are in this space that has no rhyme or reason. You don't know where you're going. There's no like the architecture doesn't make sense. There's things sticking out of walls because the Backrooms exist outside of our plane of existence. So for the synopsis of the movie, and also to explain like a little bit more of the Backrooms. So in the movie, the owner of a furniture store finds a secret doorway that leads him to an endless stretch of rooms. When he disappears, his therapist ventures into the unknown to rescue him. Now, saying it's a doorway is it's accurate, but there's no door. Like it was just a wall, and he walks through it, and he's in the Backrooms. But that's the whole concept of the Backrooms. It exists outside of our reality. Now, like I mentioned, in the YouTube series, there's no like concrete lore. So I was interested to see how the movie was going to explore that. Were they going to expound upon what's already in the YouTube series? Are they going to show the monster? Like, what direction are they taking this? Also, King Pixels, who is the creator of the YouTube series, was also the director. So it was like, this is like his big director like debut. So that was really cool and to see, and also like put faith that this was going to be like a true adaptation of his work. Now, with that, I did appreciate what the movie did with the metaphors of the backroom, because to me, my interpretation of the Backrooms, the movie Backrooms, is the Backrooms is like a metaphor for the human psyche. And that's all I'm going to say, because I think you should experience this for yourself, especially if you like slow burn horror, liminal spaces, just emptiness. Like, it's really creepy. But yeah. Let's see, what else? Oh, finally planted plants in our garden. They are flourishing, and I'm really excited to just use what we're growing. We've already been able to use some of the herbs in some of the food that we cook, so that's fun. I'll say May was a pretty good month, and I look forward to what June has to hold. There are also a few summer releases that I have on my radar. Okay, can't wait for those to come out. But yeah, thank you all for sticking around and listening to me yap about books once again. Let me know in the comments what you read in May, what books you're looking forward to this summer, and leave a comment with a sword if you made it to the end of this video. Don't forget to grab yourself a library card by hitting that subscribe button, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye! Look at my dragon. He's so cute. No idea what to name him. Her? Them. I don't know yet. I don't know. Does anyone else randomly speak in a British accent sometimes? Is that just me? It's not very good at all. I don't care. Oh, my legs! Now I gotta put everything back.